It's 39 minutes past the hour. Back with us now on the Sunrise Morning Show is Stephen Howard from In Defense of Christians. Stephen, welcome back.
Thank you, Annie. Good to be with you again.
It is good to have you. And the Wall Street Journal has published an op-ed written by IDC President Tewfiq Bucklini and Cardinal Timothy Dolan of New York. What was their message in this column?
They really focused on the fact that persecution lies at the heart of the Christmas story, and that despite the fact that for many of us here in the U.S. and across the world, even for those of us who are accustomed, to going to church on a regular basis and without fear of persecution, in this unique circumstance where perhaps we're unable to go to church or perhaps gathering in church isn't as comfortable as it used to be. The fact is there are millions of people, probably hundreds of millions of people around the world who experience this as a daily reality. And there are millions of Christians in a country such as Saudi Arabia, who are unable to go to church at all. There are, millions of Christians in a country like Egypt. And in a country like Egypt, you even have entire villages where the majority of people are Christian, and they end up having to have mass or liturgy in the street because the government hasn't approved the church to be built, right? You have Christians in a country such as China where the government is trying to infiltrate the church. And the cases go on and on. So truly it was just a sober reflection that, from this experience, from this adversity that we are having this year, let's be mindful of the fact that when COVID is over, there are going to be hundreds of millions of Christians across the world who are going to experience this still, and that we have an obligation as members of the body of Christ to come to their assistance.
Yeah, I was really struck even just by the opening lines of this piece where they say, for the first time in their lives, millions of Americans have been ordered by their government not to attend church. For millions of persecuted Christians across the globe, this is the only reality they know. It's just an incredible thought and makes me so grateful for what I do have, even in this year where we've experienced so many restrictions on the mass. Stephen, what are the goals, do you think, as we look to a new year and in a few weeks a new administration as it pertains to persecuted populations around the world?
That's a great question. It's a great question. For us, there's a number. We work on a lot of countries, obviously. Certainly at the top of our priorities list. And the easy slogan, the easy way to put it is save Lebanon and stop Turkey, which is no surprise to you given the conversations that we've had this year. But we're really going to be laser focused on addressing the humanitarian, economic, and political crisis in Lebanon. The reality is the country was barely making it before the August 4th explosion, and that just added a whole other dimension of destabilization to the picture. And for your listeners to know as well, the reason why we advocate so strongly for Lebanon is it's truly the last bastion of Christianity in the Middle East. It's the highest of all the Middle Eastern countries. It's by percentage. It's the largest per capita home of Christianity in the Middle East. And furthermore, I'll just note as well, whether it's really where the rosaries are made. It's where the seminaries are based. It's where the icons are being written. It's where basically it really supports Christian. Much like EWTN, Christian media is based there for the whole Middle Eastern region. And so, it's not just simply the fact that a lot of Christians live there, but one has to really look at the country and see that it's truly like a hub of Christian activity that supports the faith throughout the region. Secondly would be Turkey, of course. Turkey has become, a rogue actor is an understatement. Converting the Hagia Sophia Cathedral to a mosque, converting the Core Church to a mosque, using Syrian jihadists to attack Christians in Artsakh, Armenian Christians in Artsakh, violating the U.S. brokered ceasefire in northeastern Syria over 800 times in a single calendar year. The list goes on and on and on. That was not meaningfully confronted. It's good, at least in these last 2 weeks, we've seen new sanctions put on Turkey. But I think the next administration is really going to have to put the pressure on Turkey in a way that hasn't been done by an American president before for this to matter. And then, again, there's many other countries that we're going to really focus on. Saudi Arabia has not been sanctioned for violations against religious freedom, despite the fact that it's the worst violator of religious freedom in the world. Not one single church exists in Saudi Arabia. And to be honest, I think if you could have a Catholic church, at least one Catholic parish in North Korea, there's no reason why Saudi Arabia should not have churches. Egypt, just this last week, we found that there was a woman named Sued Thabet, and about 3 years ago, because there was a rumor circulating about her family. Some folks caught wind of it. They went to her home, and they stripped this woman naked, an elderly woman, and dragged her throughout the city to publicly shame her. And just this last week, we found out the 3 men who perpetrated the crime were let go. So Christians, are not protected by the law in Egypt, where in the country such as Egypt, the Christians number between 10 and 20 million people. So this is a big, big issue. And there's so many other countries that we are going to be doing work on. Syria, we're going to make sure that Christians stay in Syria and thrive there. Iraq, we want to make sure that Christians and Yazidis who suffer at the hands of ISIS can return home. Iran, holding Iran accountable. The list, it does go on Nigeria. There's a Christian genocide there we're responding to. It's a big, the challenges are getting more and more intense for us, and we're quite, we're ready to meet the challenge, but it is a daunting task for sure.
For sure. And Stephen, we are so glad to have In Defense of Christians as part of the weekly Sunrise Morning Show lineup so that our listeners can stay abreast of these things. But these are stories that only kind of get a trickle in terms of mainstream secular media. How do you hope that this Wall Street Journal opinion piece from Tufik Buklini and Cardinal Dolan can help spread the word even wider than the airwaves of Catholic radio?
Absolutely. I think if there's a lesson that we've learned, not just this year, but perhaps over the last few years, is that you cannot really ignore the role that religion has to play in U.S. foreign policy for a number of reasons. But the atrocities that Christians have experienced, they just can't be ignored. Fundamentally, when they've experienced genocide at the hands of ISIS in recent memory, when we see, again, the Hagia Sophia, one of the most monumental cultural icons, appropriated, converted, into a mosque when it was built as a Christian cathedral by the Emperor Justinian. The mainstream media it needs to look at these issues specifically through a faith lens, because there's no other lens one can look at them through, and that's why I think we've actually started to see an increase in interest from mainstream media, from mainstream press in these issues, and that's the momentum that we're looking to build on and that we're excited about.
Well, we're excited for you, and be assured that you always have a spot here on the Sunrise Morning Show, because we know just how important these stories are. We've been talking to Stephen Howard from In Defense of Christians. Stephen, have a very Merry Christmas, and thank you so much for all of the great work that you've done this past year, especially on the Sunrise Morning Show.
Well, Annie, we want to thank you. We have loved being on your show this year. We look forward to going on it next year. You've done a remarkable job in helping amplify the message of IDC. We also want to wish you and your entire team and your listeners a Merry Christmas, and encourage anyone who wants to learn more about our work to visit indefenseofchristians.org.
Yes, most definitely. This is a great time to do it, and you can find it linked at sunrisemorningshow.com. Stephen, thank you